Before we start, and even before looking at the user interface and setting up, I want to have a brief word about your assets. Now, I am going to make the videos used throughout this course available to you, but whether you use these or your own, I want to briefly describe one method of collecting your resources together. What I suggest is you place all your assets, be they video clips, audio clips, photographs, illustrations, whatever, well, keep them together in one place on a separate drive from the main drive that contains your operating system. Now, I know this isn't always possible, certainly with a laptop, for example, but be aware though, running video is a CPU resource-hungry experience for your PC. The more powerful your PC, the better, of course. Now, what I recommend is having a designated folder on a separate drive on your system that contains your Premiere Pro projects. Then inside there, create a number of subfolders for each project, and then further subfolders with inside those project folders, distinct subfolders for audio and video and illustrations and photographs, etc. And then, of course, you would place your relevant assets in the pertinent subfolders. And then from this point, once you start Premiere Pro and create a new project, you can designate this folder as the project folder. It makes housekeeping your project so much easier. Now, we will look at this further when we do start a project. Now, you might be wondering if an external drive will be okay to use. Possibly is the only answer I can give you because it's dependent on the drive speed and the connection to your PC. A drive rotation speed of 7,200 RPM or better is recommended. Anything slower will make your project much more sluggish. You'll still be able to work, but as I say, it will be much slower to work this way. Now, at one time, SCSI drives, SCSI drives, were the only way to connect at fast enough speeds. Now, they've pretty much dropped out of sight now, even in recording studios where they were most prevalent. Instead, people tend to connect with the USB drive. And certainly with the emergence of USB 3, well, this has helped with transfer speeds to your PC. But they're not without problem in that they will at some time crash. I'm not saying that maybe they will crash. You know and I know they will crash at some point. What I suggest is having a separate USB drive and keep a backup on that. Now, something else to consider when using internal or external drives is the naming structure you use for the files. If you retain it throughout a project, you'll be okay. But if you happen to rename an asset or move it by mistake, Premiere Pro will have to be informed about the change. That said, Premiere Pro does have a function that attempts to rectify any issues for you, and on the whole is pretty good at this. It's not completely automatic, as we'll see in a moment, but this function is called Link Media. So let's see this in action. Now, if you are brand new to Premiere Pro, don't be too concerned at the moment about what I'm showing you, in terms of the way that the user interface is laid out. Just for now, be aware that right down here in the bottom left-hand corner, well, this is our project panel, and within here you can see all the assets that I've got linked to this particular project and by relation to this particular sequence. 3 of these assets are on the timeline, these 3 video files. So, what's happening at the moment is Premiere Pro understands that these particular assets, wherever they are located on my hard drive, are linked to this particular project and this sequence. If I was to inadvertently move one of these assets or rename it by mistake, then Premiere Pro needs to be informed of this. I'll show you what I mean. I'll close down Premiere Pro, I'll run up to File, and then down to Close Project, and then I'll flip over to my drive, and here's the main Premiere Pro CC folder that I was talking about earlier on. Well, within here, I keep all of my Premiere Pro projects, and here's the one that we've just looked at within Premiere Pro, this one called School Walk. If I open this, then you'll see I've got these 3 subfolders, audio, images, and video. Inside the audio folder, well, there is this file called School Walk number 1 actually. Now bear in mind Premiere Pro knows where this is and knows what it's called. I'll just navigate back. At the present time I've got nothing in the images subfolder, so I'll open up the video subfolder, and there you'll see those 3 video files that we've seen already on our sequence within Premiere Pro. Now if I accidentally move one of these files, or rename it, and that's what I'll do with this one, I'll simply call it 0630, removing the prefix there. Well, because I've done this here outside of Premiere Pro, well, the program doesn't know I've done this. And in fact, if I go back, and I'll change my audio folder to audio number 1, once more, that audio file that's inside there, even though that retains the same name, this folder that it's inside of has got a new name of which at the moment Premiere Pro is completely unaware. Let's flip back over to Premiere Pro and I'll open up that particular project. It's this one called Untitled. Well, as soon as I do, I now see this link media dialog to inform me that Premiere Pro is struggling at the moment to find a couple of files. And we know those two files are ones that we've either just renamed or we've renamed the folder that contains it. So what we need to do is manually help out Premiere Pro. It's got this far in that it knows these files are missing, but it has no idea that we've renamed them. So even though we are told the original file path for this audio file, for example, School Walk number 1, what I have to do is first of all select it and then locate it manually. So I'll click on the locate button. This further browser opens up and immediately takes us to the last known location. Well, that file is inside this folder, audio number 1. Remember, we renamed it from audio to audio number 1, and there we go, there is our file. So all I need to do to inform Premiere Pro is simply click on OK. Consequently, we now see a check mark next to that file. Let's work on our second one. Initially it was called this, but remember I removed the prefix, so now the file is simply called 0630. I'll go through the same process of having it selected and then hitting locate. Now I just need to navigate to my project folder and then open up the video folder. And there it is, 0630. It's just processing at the moment. However, I do know this is the file, so I could simply select it and click on OK. Alternatively, I'm just going to click on cancel because I want to show you this option down here. It might be that you've not actually changed a file's name and you do want to use it. It might well be that you don't really want that file as part of your project, or perhaps it's on a separate drive somewhere else. Well, by coming down here and indicating that this particular file is offline, then we still retain that file's position within our sequence, as we'll see in a second. What will happen is we'll be informed that that media can't be found at the present time, and we need to rectify this prior to finishing this sequence. If we look down in our project panel, we'll see that there is that same file name, but the icon just to its left indicates that it's not been found at the present time. And you'll also see the indication here within our sequence. It's a different color to inform us that we do have a problem at the moment. And in fact, if I place the CTI, the current time indicator, so that it's at this sequence position, then within the monitor view just above, we see all these different language messages informing us that this particular media is offline. Now at this point, you might decide, well, I've remembered where it is. And a quick way of linking to it is by selecting it down here in the project panel once more, right click, and then choose that link media option there. Once you do, you'll see this link media dialog again. So all we need to do is locate it. There it is, and in fact now it's finished being processed. So I'll have it selected and hit OK. Consequently, the icon to the left of the name in the project panel now indicates that it's available, and you'll notice on our timeline that that red indication warning has now disappeared. Okay, so those are some housekeeping project tips. First of all, to start off a project, but also if we have problems whereby we have to use the link media function.